Artificial intelligence and ChatGPT specifically are just 1 year old. Today, Rajeev and I are going to go through and talk to you about exactly what we've seen in this first year and what's coming in the future.
Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the podcast dedicated to real estate professionals to demystify AI and give you practical strategies that you can apply to your business today. I'm your co-host, Rajeev Sajja.
And the other co-host, Jimmy Burgess, and we are excited for you to be a part of this. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you go out and that you subscribe to the podcast. Also, we would really appreciate if you could leave us a review. It helps us spread the message that as a real estate community, we are stronger together. Now let's get to this episode.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Real Estate AI Flash, the podcast that is dedicated to real estate agents and help AI power your business. It's great to be on with you, Jimmy.
Rajeev, this is going to be a lot of fun. And I think as you and I were talking before we got started, I don't know of anything that really can make a bigger difference that we can do to add more value to agents than to put together something like this with all the things that you're learning, all the things that I'm learning, and bringing on guests that are actually on the front lines that are utilizing this to power their business. I think this is going to be a lot of fun and a ton of value. So I'm super excited. Hey, let's do this, Rajeev. As we're doing our first episode here, one of the things that I believe is I think we will look back on this as a turning point of the birth of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT specifically. So why don't we do this? Do you remember the first time you heard about ChatGPT, and where were you and what did you think when you first heard about it?
I was eating turkey Thanksgiving Day in 2022, and we had a group of friends at home, and a friend who was a tech entrepreneur said, Rajeev, you should check out ChatGPT. Have you heard of it? I said, no. And what is it? It says you can have a conversation with it and it'll produce content you would not believe. And knowing the techno nerd I am, I said next day morning, I created an account at openai.com and I dove in. And as I started to learn, I could not wait to dive in deeper. And that following Monday, I did a video on it to our sales associates saying, check it out. It is truly transformative. And looking back, we're almost at a year anniversary for ChatGPT now, right? And look at how much stuff we've learned in a year. And I can't wait for our future because it's going to be transformation.
I couldn't agree more. It was interesting. I was actually listening to a podcast and Gary Vaynerchuk. This is like literally the first week of November. It had only been out for about a week. And he made the comment, he said, the next thing that is going to transform our lives completely is ChatGPT. Get on there, try it out, see what it is. And I remember I went on just like you. I started that first free account. It took me a little while. There were mornings where I couldn't get on because there were too many people on it. It was just getting started, And then I remember asking it to do a couple of small things that I was like, surely it can't do this. And it did. And I was like, this is different. Like you, I came in, went straight to our marketing team, went straight to Tim that our videographer, and said, hey, I don't know how exactly we're going to be able to utilize this, but this is crazy. I'd love for you guys to take some time and really dive into this. Literally within a week, we were just kind of sitting in amazement of what we could see at that point. And now, as we've seen these things, and I know we're going to go through some of these evolution in just this first year now, but it's amazing to see how far it's come in 1 year. I can't even imagine what this is going to look like going forward. So let's do this. Let's go back and just talk about some of the things that you've seen that have changed over this first year, some of the things that you've learned, and maybe just share some of those for those folks that are out here that may be tuning in for the first time and hearing a little bit more about this.
Yeah, and a lot of new terminology, Jimmy, has come out of our use of AI. So let's kind of level set really quickly about some terms that our users are going to get used to because they'll be listening to our podcast every week and we're going to drop these terms in the podcast. So this notion of artificial intelligence has been around before. So let's call that term traditional artificial intelligence, traditional AI, which has been around. It's been working in our lives with Nest, Google Maps, Netflix. And it was primarily used for pattern recognition, large data, making predictions. I don't know if you knew this, Jimmy. When Obama got elected the first time, there was a website called 538 that predicted his election prior to him winning the election based on purely data. And I'm sure there was AI involved. So a lot of those common examples. Now, let's bring it back home to traditional, to real estate. traditional AI, think about what's your home worth that was launched years ago, is all collecting data and putting a value on your home. The other one is likely to sell. All of those things are traditional real estate solutions using traditional AI. Well, Thanksgiving 2022 changed everything because generative AI now was introduced, and this term is more used now than ever before, obviously because of the year we've had with ChatGPT, gave humans the ability to ask questions of AI solutions like ChatGPT, including text. You can generate images, and we'll get into all of those things. Just asking questions with human-like text input gave you all of this information back. And unlike traditional AI, everyone, you and me, can interact with Gen AI solutions like ChatGPT in a human-like manner and really boost our productivity. And both traditional and Gen AI solutions come under this larger umbrella of artificial intelligence. So that's a good definition. The other one we start to hear is LLMs, large language models. Every AI solution is based on an LLM that all these companies are launching. So ChatGPT is an LLM, and it's web scale, internet scale data that's put together in large computing power, giving the window into a human like you and me to interact with it and ask it human-like questions. And GPT, now I had to look this up, Jimmy. People don't know what GPT stood for, right? This stands for generative pre-trained transformer. This is a type of AI model. Now, this is during COVID. OpenAI, the parent company, was launching GPT-1, 2, and 3, but the real one that came out was 3.5 in November of last year. So GPT is a generative pre-trained, again, it's an AI model. The other one that I'm really excited about, we're going to get into this when we get into the chronology of what has happened in the year that was, is a multimodal model, which is these are models that can handle mixed media inputs, like generate an image and then generate copy versus just doing text to text. So again, multimodal is a great idea. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but now let's forget the terminology since our audience is good with the terminology now. Let's take a look at the year that was with generative AI and how 1 year could absolutely see a window into our future with AI, right? So Q4, like you mentioned, but November, December is when it sort of launched. And for me too, that open ChatGPT was slow. I couldn't log in. And at that point, they did launch DALL-E 2, which is their image generator, which was not as popular as DALL-E 3, which we'll talk a little bit about. And then in January, this stat blew me away, Jimmy. They reached 100 million monthly active users in just 2 months, which is the fastest growing consumer application in history to that point. And Microsoft, we know Microsoft, made a multi-year, multi-billion investment in OpenAI, the parent company of ChatGPT, and least known search engine, Bing. I know we're all a Google fans. Bing has integrated ChatGPT into their search. So all of those things started to evolve. And another part that happened in Q1 of 2023 was in February, Google introduced Bard as a competitor for ChatGPT. And competitors started to introduce other LLM models. And Google has its own LLM. And the thing that Google has about anybody else, they have the most current data. So Bard's a great competitor to keep ChatGPT honest, right? So spring of 2023 also saw, this is what I'm most excited about, I think. This is one of the key things in 2023. Introduced the paid ChatGPT model. We call it GPT-4, showcasing advanced features of GPT, which I'm sure as we go into our future episodes, we're going to get into it, which included one of the first companies that included an integration of ChatGPT was Instacart. I don't know, Jimmy, if you use Instacart for food shopping. And you can obviously select a lot of food items to be delivered, but they used a ChatGPT-like integration through their API so people can ask it questions. What's a healthy lunch for my kids? And it gave you some options, and then you can go add those items to the cart. So we'll start to see a lot of those type of things in real estate as well with CRMs and lead generation where AI is embedded into solutions like that to drive consumer experience and our use of those things. And in late March, another big news happened. ChatGPT introduced plugins. And plugins take your use of GPT-4 to a whole nother level. Just like there's an app for that, we can always say now there's a plugin for that. And there's over 1,200 plugins in the App Store for ChatGPT's plugin store. And then came the summer of 2023, Jimmy. I mean, there are a lot of predictions that happen. I don't know, some predictions just don't come true. But some predictions, I think you could probably bet, like Goldman Sachs made a really early prediction about Gen AI could drive a 7% increase in global GDP and lift productivity growth by 1.5% over the next 10 years. So it's safe to say most people believe this is the decade of generative AI. And compare that, by the way, to the internet. Imagine how big the internet was, Jimmy, when we came up, right? Think about that. They said internet made a 3.4% increase in GDP over a 30-year period. So they're saying Gen AI in 10 years is going to do twice as what the internet did in 30. So just a prediction, of course. And in May, ChatGPT introduced their mobile app. Sorry if Android users, you got it a little later, but iOS users got it in May. And so that happened. So you could take your AI assistant with you at all times and make it really easy to ask questions. And so that happened. So let's kind of come to the fall, right? Now we're sort of like 9 months away, removed from the launch of ChatGPT. Here's a report that came up that wasn't surprising to probably you and me, Jimmy, power users of ChatGPT, but 80% of Fortune 500 companies were testing some version of Gen AI for productivity improvement in their companies. And so late August, ChatGPT Enterprise was launched. A key move I think we should watch over time. Why? Because this offers enterprise-grade security and privacy, unlimited GPT-4 access, and most important, companies are concerned about this. Like even in real estate, we're concerned about compliance, confidentiality. And when you use a public GPT model like ChatGPT, you can't share confidential information with it. But when you have GPT Enterprise, whatever you share is not used to train the model, and it stays within your enterprise. So that's a trend to watch because I think you'll see a lot more of that happen. And again, in November, Microsoft is launching Copilot, which is their version of AI for enterprises that will sit on Microsoft Office and become your AI assistant at work. So more to come in enterprise. And the winter, I think, probably brought the most significant announcement from ChatGPT on their developer day. Now they're going to have November 6th is ChatGPT Developer Day, which clearly a year removed from their launch, they held its first, and then a lot of many new enhancements came up, including DALL-E 3 came right before it, which is an image generator compared with Midjourney and other text-to-image solutions, and GPT-4 with vision. So the default mode was GPT-4 with vision, but they announced that multimodal says, instead of having up until November 6th, we had to use default mode with vision, we had to use advanced data analysis, we had to use browse with Bing, all were different modes, but now they're all combined into one. So I could generate image with DALL-E, I could write a copy with the same text, so I could do a lot more in the same chat. And so that happened. And then GPT-4 Turbo, not that GPT-4 was enough, Turbo came about. And this is really improving knowledge cutoff. And we always, initially when people start to play with it, it doesn't remember things after September 2021. And that's true with the free version of GPT, but GPT-4 now is September 2023 knowledge cutoff. And I think we'll see that gap close to current time very soon. So they included that. They improved it a context window, which is very simply, how much does this large language model remember in a chat? We'll talk a little bit about memory here as we go through further episodes, but they improved that drastically and lowered the price for developers to build custom GPT solutions and feature them in their GPT store. So you can build custom stuff. Imagine building one for listing descriptions, right? I mean, just so that it understands fair housing law and it does all of those things and it's focused on listing descriptions. I can see those type of solutions in our near future that we can empower agents with. So that brings us to today, Jim. So I thought it was very fitting for us, our inaugural episode, to talk about the year that was with ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think it's great. And just to kind of wrap that up on some of the things that we've been seeing as far as the application of it in the real estate, I think we're just scratching the surface, but we initially started with helping us write some of these descriptions for the MLS. Then we started looking at how are we going to increase the views that we were having on social media posts, how we're going to have more optimized YouTube scripts and SEO optimized opportunities on social media and on YouTube. As we continue to see this, creating efficiencies with processes, All of these things are just beginning to develop. And as we go through some of these future episodes, we're going to get super practical on exactly what agents are doing. So if you're an agent out there and you're utilizing ChatGPT or artificial intelligence in your business, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to share your story, because Home Services America, we truly do believe we're all stronger together. So we want to share these stories in a way that helps us all get better and utilize this to its best and optimal advantage to our businesses. Rajeev, as we wrap up this first episode, anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I think we want all of you that are listening to this episode. Some of you are beginners. Some of you are kind of knee deep in it. Some of you are advanced. We'd love to hear from all of you, because we believe that all of you add value. And as you're using the solution, we'll hear ideas and it'll define our future topics, because this podcast is really for you, the real estate agent.
All right, everybody, if you haven't had a chance yet, go out and make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so that you'll be notified when we have future episodes. Rajeev and I will do our best to bring value in a way that helps move your business forward. Take care, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
This podcast has been produced by TSC Studios. Music is courtesy of Soundstripe. Audio and video editing is provided by Noah Escobar. Graphic design by Melinda McKnight. And special thanks to Jordan Wilson of Your Everyday AI for the inspiration and expertise.